Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Joanne and I'm a typical Dutchman, and I react to all kinds of videos about life and living in the US or life and living in Europe, specifically the Netherlands. And if you like this kind of content, then please hit the subscribe button. It's for free today, so take your opportunity to hit a free subscription for this channel. We're still growing, so it would be really appreciated if you hit the subscribe button. And for today, we're gonna take a look at the Tudor Yank. She's an American who reacts to UK versus USA work culture. The truth Americans don't want to admit. Okay, we have seen a lot of videos about the work culture in the USA. Better said, the lack of any rights. So I'm curious what she has to say. Interest exploring Britain. Okay, now, well, let's take a look. Oh, yeah. She is in London.
There is a country in the developed world in the year 2026 that does not, by law, have to guarantee its citizens a single day of paid holiday or a single paid day of sick leave or even a single paid day of maternity leave. And that country is the one I'm from, America, the United States of America. On paper, the
North America. North America, because I've seen comments, America is bigger. I know. She's talking about the USA, the United States of America, not all countries in America.
richest country in the world. It invented the iPhone, the moon landing, and
Oh, she's not that enthusiastic about her country.
about 11 different types of Mountain Dew. But it is, by all measures, a metric of progress, a marvel, some say. And yet, if you have a baby there, you are expected to be back at your desk within, on average, 2 weeks.
2 weeks? I believe even that is a long time. On average, 2 weeks.
If you are sick, you're expected to come on in the office. And if you are
Sick? Okay, I'll be in the office and I will sleep in the office there.
allowed to have a full holiday, which is a generous thing that most jobs do not give. At most, on average, you get about 2 weeks. And if you take it, you will be quietly judged by your colleagues. So today I wanted to walk you through the differences of American work culture and British work culture.
Okay, we're gonna take a look with her.
The contracts, the annual leave, the sick days, the maternity, the healthcare, the whole what do you do apparatus. And I'm going to tell you, but by the end of it, the thing that most Americans under no circumstances want to admit is this, is that a country that is built on freedom has in fact the least free workforce in the developed world. This is the independence myth, I think, the idea of at-will employment. Well, let's just begin with that. At-will employment. It is the cornerstone of American working life. It's a concept so peculiar in other countries that there's really not a word for it anywhere else.
No, I get it.
In America, 49 out of the 50 states, you can be fired from your job at any time for any reason or for no reason. You can be fired because your boss just didn't like your shoes. You can be fired Fired because your boss had a bad lunch. You can be fired because, I don't know, Karen at HR said you were just a bit much on Monday's meeting. You can be fired on a Tuesday for things that happen on Wednesday. Make that make sense, right? There's no rules. There's no notice. You can walk in at 9 and by 10 o'clock, you are walking out with a cardboard box full of your personal items, including traditionally your sad office plant. But in Britain,
Yeah, like you see in many movies, people walking out with a cart.
you cannot do this. In Britain, the employee has a contract. The contract has a notice period. The employer must follow the process. And if they fire you for a stupid reason, you can take this to a tribunal. After around 2 years on a job, you cannot be dismissed without a fair reason, even. There's nothing remotely like at will employment. When you tell an American this, they react with horror. They think you have to stay even if your boss doesn't like you.
Yeah, working with a contract rights by law. If you have a contract over here in the Netherlands, usually when you have a temporary contract, it's a temporary contract for at least 6 months. And if you have more than 6 months, then usually it becomes a year. But after that year, you have a permanent contract, and then you have reviews, etc. And there's a long process before a boss can kick you out.
Yes. Even if you're not really good at your job, you still have security. Yeah, there's a lengthy process. You have to document, you have to give warnings, you have to try to improve. And if all of that, the employee still can't be saved, they still have to be given notice within their rights. And that is something completely foreign to Americans.
Foreign, literally.
The American response to this is still protecting the company and saying, that sounds kind of expensive. The British response is, yes, we do this because we're not a Victorian workshop anymore. But this means that in America, your boss essentially has all the power, literally all of it. They have already bargained before you have even started your job. You can be a brilliant employee, or you could be there for 17 years. And one morning they call you into the office and they decide that you're just not a cultural fit. Then they put you in the lift with your box. There's no court, there's no tribunal, and generally
After 17 years, yeah.
there is no severance even. Americans have been told repeatedly that this is freedom. It is flexible labor market and everyone is good with it.
Yeah, because the flip side of the coin is if you are not satisfied with your job, you can leave also at any time. So that's then called the freedom, but you're not free. It's it's an illusion. I would say a dream. It's an illusion that you can call that freedom. It's defending something that is actually not a freedom at all.
And that you can leave whenever you want. So that's what makes it fair to you, the employee. But I would gently like to point out to my viewers here that being fired without notice is not freedom. That is not the same kind of freedom you have here at all. Now let's talk about annual leave.
Okay, she's switching to, yeah, it's not freedom. That's the difference between in Europe, not only in England, but all of Europe, is we have worker unions, there are worker rights, there are laws protecting the employee. And that's something that did not happen in the United States in the last decade or two. To get a labor market that is protected by law. Why? Look back at the video of yesterday. Greed. Yeah.
So In Britain, you're legally entitled to 28 days of paid annual leave. That's roughly about, what, 5.6 weeks-ish every year.
28 days. Yeah. On average in Europe, yeah, 28 between 25 and 32. And that's without the other paid leave like Christmas and Eastern and all those Christian holidays. You are most of the time, depending which branch you're working in, but most of the time you are free. So that's also paid leave. So you have your annual leave plus all the days that are Christian holidays. They're also most of the time free.
By law. In America, you are legally entitled to zero. Zero. I will say that again slowly so the British viewers here can understand that I am not exaggerating this for the sake of comedy, although it is
Sake of comedy, no.
tragically funny. You get zero. The United States of America is the only developed nation on earth that does not have a federally mandated minimum for holiday. The only one. Well, there is one other country on this zero list, in case you were curious. It's Micronesia, and that's it. That's it. Most American workers, they get about 2 weeks, and many get less, and some get none at all. Many cannot take one of these off because the office needs them. Many do not take them at all because they're afraid someone in the office will judge them for looking lazy for taking a holiday.
Yeah. Image. And for the previous part, when you're coming back from holiday, you could be already being fired because you took a holiday. Yeah.
And there have been surveys after surveys about this. And when Americans take their holiday, their full allowance, if they're given one, they feel quietly judged by all the colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
In Britain, you have 28 days. You take them, your boss, in fact, might even badger you to take these days.
Yeah. Aren't you still here? You should have holidays. Come on, go. Get out of here.
Ask you, if you don't take these, you're going to lose them. In America, I worked once at a company that on the first day, my colleague leaned over and said, "We don't really take our vacation here." And it sounded in the tone that she was telling me that someone she knew had died, because kind of in a way it had. It was her hope. The British have a phrase that Americans find completely abnormal, and it's, "I'm taking a week off." That's just a complete sentence here. There's no need to defend it. There's no need to tell where you're going. There's no extra. The only equivalent Americans have is what's called paid time off, or PTO, which sounds so corporate, it takes out any enjoyment of it.
PTO. I never heard of it, but paid time off. Okay.
It sounds like it was honestly branded by like an HR third-party think tank. I hate it. I hate the word. But in Britain, you just call this a holiday because that is what it is. You, on holiday here, unlike people in the States, you do not check your emails. You do not check your phone. Your colleagues do not bother you and reach out to you, because when you are on holiday here, you're on holiday. I remember being in Europe with one of
Yeah, it's hard to imagine for people in the US that, for me, that you cannot take a holiday and not feel that you are on a holiday, that you really have no obligations to your company, and that your company does not expect you to feel obligated to do checking mail or reach out if there's a problem. Or no, you're out, you're off, you're gone for a week or 2 weeks, whatever the plans are. You're gone. Wow.
And my friends, and while we were there on like the fourth day, she's checking her work emails. Here we are overlooking like a beautiful canal, and I look at her and she is just on her laptop answering back about quarterly reports, even though she had scheduled this as vacation and was at a very good job. That's the reality. And back to
Yeah. Where is this coming from? And I've seen it in comments of people in other videos that I reacted to say that it's coming from the Prussian culture, the Prussian education system, that people from the first day that they can walk and talk get impregnated with, not impregnated, get imprinted and brainwashed to work. You should work. Only when you work, you are a good person. That's why the Americans do this, my opinion. Because why should you? Where is this coming from?
talking about sick days, sick leave in the States. It's a separate department. In Britain, if you are ill, you simply stay home. You text your manager and say, I'm not make it in, I don't feel well. And your manager generally replies with, get well soon and take all the time you need. That's
Yeah. And call HR to call in sick because they need to know too over here in the
the
Netherlands.
entire exchange. You have statutory sick pay here. You sit at home on the couch, you drink your limb sip from a mug, and you get better. In America, if you are ill, you are basically still expected to come to work. I'm being completely serious. So that was great for COVID years, right? There's also no federal requirement in the United States for paid sick leave. So
It's unbelievable. Why? Why are people still living in the United States? I wonder. Payment is bad. Inflation is very, very high. Nobody get paid enough. And still people are there. I don't get it.
if you don't go into work, you don't get paid. Now, some jobs offer it, many don't. If you happen to work in retail or the restaurant industry, you typically get nothing. So when an American gets sick, they do math first. They calculate the risk of getting fired. They calculate whether the meeting at 3 could still be handled at home from their laptop. They calculate if they lose their job, what happens to their insurance. And then 8 times out of 10, the American still goes into work while they're sick.
Yeah, but he or she won't be productive. It's counterproductive when somebody is sitting sick or ill at their desk. It has no use at all. Give him a day. He will maybe 2 days sick leave, paid sick leave at home, so he or she can recover, get well, and then get in, and then pick up where he or she left in the last 2 days. Then he or she is more productive than 4 days or 5 days being ill at the office and still not doing enough work. It's ridiculous. It's illogical, would Spock say.
You can be on the subway in New York City on a February, and you will hear people coughing on their way to work, coming to spread the joy to the whole office, which makes no sense, right?
No.
But in Britain, if someone arrives to work with a cough or a cold, their colleagues will likely look at them and probably give a sense of horror and tell them they should probably go home. What are you doing here? You don't sound well. And they'll just go home and rest.
Yeah. Depending on if you have a simple cold and you're sniffing a bit, yeah, it's only a cold. It will be 2 days. But if you're, yeah, then your colleagues will say, yeah, you don't look that well. Go home. Visit the doctor.
But in America, if you show up sick to work, your colleagues typically will say, wow, you really pushed through it. That's really inspiring.
Inspiring,
I
yeah.
also want to argue the fact that, like I mentioned earlier, this is probably the reason why in every American office there is someone who has continually had a cough for 4 months because they've not actually gone home and rest and got well. Or they just pass it around.
Or get the proper medicine because it's unpayable. It's very expensive to get a coughing medicine or something.
Nonstop. But one other thing that women in America really have to deal with is the lack of guaranteed maternity leave. Now, in Britain, there is a statutory maternity leave that is up to 52 weeks, a whole year, and it's paid. What?
She can't believe it herself. 52 weeks. At usually 70% of your usual payment, but 52 weeks. I'm not totally sure over here in the Netherlands because it's, I believe, 13 before and 13. Yeah, it could be. No, I believe 3 months before you're delivering the baby, giving birth, and I believe 3 or 4 months after you have given birth, that you are still free, paid maternity leave. I'm not, but an entire week, an entire year, I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think so. An entire year, but half to 3/4 of a year, that's for sure, paid.
You can even split this with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And by law, you have to be able to return to your job. In America, there is no federally mandated maternity leave. None. Absolutely none. Your job might offer it, most jobs don't, but it is not mandated. So no one has to give it to you.
But when you're highly pregnant and about to give birth, and you go to work, is there somebody in the office who can assist you right at the moment that it actually happens? That's what you see in a lot of movies. It's the women giving birth because, yeah, they are at home. You were at work.
Women often will give birth and be back at work within 2 weeks, regardless of complications, regardless of how terrible it could have gone. And they'll often just take what is called their PTO days. Sick days, if they get them, are FMLA, is what most jobs will have you take, which is like a medical leave, but it's typically unpaid. If you work for a company, actually, okay, so back to the FMLA. If you work for a company that is only 50 employees or less, they don't even have to offer you this FMLA leave. You get literally nothing if you don't work for a big corporation, and then big corporations control everything. So you see where like the lack of benefits kind of happen. Now, people in England and Britain, when they go back to work after their maternity leave, they return to colleagues that are excited to see them and see that the office did not burn down while they were gone and that everyone survived in their absence. I'm trying not to make a moral argument here. I'm really not, but
But that's it is the truth. the company will continue even if you're not there. But that's a switch that has to come off in your head. That's I can leave, but yeah.
I'm just simply observing that one of these countries holds up a flag and says they have freedom, and the other seems to let women recover after childbirth. Those are two very different things. The other thing I've noticed here, which is a big adjustment for me, is that no one opens a conversation with, "So what do you
What are you
do?"
doing? Yeah.
And by that question, I mean not just what do you do for funsies or anything, but it is the first question before how do you know the host? What are you here to see? What have you been up to lately? It is what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And
The image of what kind of a job do you do, and depending on that view, you are judged.
they're not referring to anything other than what do you do for a job? Because you are a job. Your
Mm-hmm.
job is your identity. Your job is your status. Your job, in many cases, is also your healthcare. So when you walk into a room and you walk through first, your job also arrives ahead of you. In Britain, the first question people often ask at a party is, how do you know Sarah, the person throwing the party? If a British person were to ask you what you do, it's often more in regards to something late in the conversation that had context. Maybe even sometimes after several drinks at the pub. But it is not the opening question because a British person,
Now, most of the time it isn't. It's coming up. So what are you doing? Oh, you're a teacher. Oh, wow. Ah, I love it. Blah 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 blah. Blah. And then the conversation continues, but it's not the first question. No.
you can have a 2 hour conversation with about your dogs, your childhood, your opinion on jacket potatoes, and walk away with absolutely no information about what their job is. And this is because I think in Britain, what you do for a living is frankly private and kind of a slightly embarrassing detail. Like your salary or your shoe size are the last thing you watched on YouTube. One
Oh, he's so good with words.
time, so I was at a pub and talking to a stranger, and he happened to ask what I do actually. And I said, I'm a YouTuber. And he just nodded and said, Right. So do you have like a real job? uh,
Yeah. But that is someone who's trying to impress her or coming on to her or flirting in that way. Because she's a good looking woman.
I don't think he was trying to be unkind. I think he was just being very British. But in America, my job would be the topic of conversation for 40 minutes. In Britain, it lasted for about, I don't know, 4 seconds. And then we went back to talking about the cute dog that he had out on the patio, which honestly I'm far more interested in anyway. But man, okay, yeah, the other thing. I've noticed that there is not a hustle. Not everyone is trying to have multiple hustles going on, which is what you do in America. You do not have just one job. You have your main job, you have your side hustle, and then you have your passion project.
Okay. Yep. And then in between, somewhere you still have time to go to the gym.
You are doing these things even when you're not at work. You are doing these things when you're on holiday. You are thinking about these
Holidays, you don't have
things
holidays.
even while you're asleep or attempting to sleep. You are the combination of all these things. Your life is the hustle. The passion project, also, you're going to try to turn that into your main job at some point. Like that is how my brain has been programmed. And hopefully you can overlap your passion project into your job, but that is not how it goes for everyone. And not everyone is so lucky. And I feel lucky to have that be the case. But in America, it's not like you opened a craft store and it just happened to go well. And now like the thing you love is your job. It is the goal of every American to have a job, a side hustle, and a passion project.
Wow. Most of us just have a job, and that's enough. And then the rest of the time we spend with our family to relax, to enjoy with friends, to have social contacts.
And the hope that the three of these together will somehow pay your bills.
The last part of the sentence, the three of those together pay your bills. Here in Europe and in Great Britain, it's the same. Your job is enough to pay your bills.
I would say here that's considered like slightly mentally unwell. Here, you spend your Sundays not thinking of a side hustle. You spend it going to a pub to have a Sunday roast or sitting on the sofa, catching up on Last Kingdom, which I'm currently watching. The 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 Brits don't seem to feel the need to have a side hustle. A British person does not need a personal brand. In fact, I think most British people do not want one, which I agree. Like, I don't even think Americans truly want one. It's the cultural and societal pressure. Ideally, you should just have a job, you go to work, you finish, you go home, and you're just a person again.
Yeah. A normal day at work from Monday to Friday, and that's it. I won't say from 9 to 5 because some people are from 8 to 4 or from 8 to 6, but usually from 9 to 5, Monday to Fridays, that's it.
But in America, I think people believe that is a suspicious thing to be. There is no such thing as being off in America. You are only exploring opportunities or between projects. And if you can't even fill the space with those, you're thinking about writing a novel. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. There is no just sitting on your sofa on a Sunday afternoon. There's no casually getting Sunday roast with your community.
You cannot tell in the United States to someone that I'm out, I'm relaxing, I'm doing nothing. I'm just sitting on the couch reading a book. That's it.
It's a completely different life.
Yeah,
In Britain,
I
I think
understand.
Sunday is considered if you're relaxing on the couch on a Sunday, that's a successful weekend spent relaxing. And I know we've talked about this one a million times, and I know everyone talks about it, but it is still such a shock to my system, and it is the
Yeah, I get it. When she's from the United States and now living in Britain, working in Great Britain, I don't know how long she is in Great Britain, but yeah, it's a great culture shock when you're leaving the United States and going to Europe, any European country, and find out that you have to work to live and not live to work. It's a culture shock for anyone.
freaking healthcare. The reason you have to
Ooh,
be so obsessed with your job in America is because your healthcare is tied to your job. If you lose your job, you lose your insurance. And now that you know that you can be let go for any reason or no reason, your insurance is what is dangled over your head like a carrot.
yeah,
You have to maintain everything. You can't. I've known people who have not left jobs they hated because they could not afford the risk of losing their healthcare coverage.
isn't it possible to get your own healthcare without the company? Over here in Europe, I would say, I for sure in the Netherlands, I have my own healthcare. independent if I have a job or not. If I have a job, then my employer has to pay along with me into my healthcare. But mandatory by law, I am required to have healthcare, but I can choose my own healthcare provider. It's not dependent on the company that I work for. So, isn't in the United States possible to have your own healthcare and say, okay, whatever they do at my job, I have my own healthcare? Isn't that possible?
Coverage. And this is not a concept in Britain. You have the NHS. The NHS does not care if you have a job. The NHS does not care if you have just left your job or if you just started your job and your enrollment period for insurance is only twice a year and that hasn't started, so you can't get your insurance coverage even though you already started at this job.
No, NHS doesn't care.
The NHS, in a sense, is a comforting hug from a nice uncle you haven't seen in a while at Christmas. It's still going to make sure you're okay. And hopefully you don't see it that often, but every time you do, it's like, it's comforting. So I'd ask gently to my Americans watching this. One way is you're offered stability and the ability to live your life and have health care and a life outside of your job and safety. On the other side, you're offered questions, uncertainty, and the possibility if you're diabetic, your insulin's going to be 1200 this month because you don't have your job.
How much? Did she said 1200 for insulin?
Which one is truly freedom?
Oh,
Truly.
yeah.
Which one is really independence? Britain has regulations about work, workplace rights, human rights, healthcare rights. Americans are just telling themselves that they're free, they're bold, they're self-reliant, they're independent. But the truth is, the average American worker has less power, less protections, less leverage, and less actual day-to-day freedom than the average British worker.
And they won't recognize that. They are blindfolded, or like we said, have a plank for the cop. They won't see it. They defending that they are weak at their job, that they don't have any rights, and they defending it instead of acting on it and do something about it. It's again illogical. Illogical.
Americans can be fired tomorrow. They can have no guaranteed holiday. They can have no guaranteed sick pay. They can have no guaranteed maternity leave. They cannot afford to lose their job because their job is the hospital. They cannot afford to be ill because being ill is also their salary. They also cannot afford to slow down, relax, get better, because slowing down in the American culture is a kind of moral failure. I try to explain to my British cousins here that the way American culture looks at people who are poor is that it is a moral failure of their own. And that's why we don't have these fail safes for people. We don't have access to healthcare. We don't have guaranteed housing, all these things that you have here because they tell you it's your fault. And we all know that's not how that works. People can.
It's your fault that my boss did not like your shoes, and that's why you'll get fired. And now you have no job, no income, no house, no insurance, and still have to pay $1,200 for your insulin. It's your own fault.
can be born into poverty and try to pull themselves out. People can have bad luck. In America, you can get hit by a car and be unable to work, and that completely changed the trajectory of your life because of health. But somehow they've convinced everyone around you to look at you and be convinced that it's your moral failure that you ended up in that situation. And that's why you see such grave poverty with no help in America. So I think, honestly, in America, you can be fired at any time for any reason. It's done. In Britain, that's just not as easy. And you get a holiday and you can enjoy your Sunday. And every Sunday, you can sit on the sofa with your friends or your family and not even be thinking about a hustle. There is no hustle. That's what Monday's for. You get 28 days off for holiday. You have statutory sick pay. And this quote always sticks out to me is well, when I asked, how many sick days do you get? And the response was, as many as you need because you're
Needed.
sick. You can't plan how many days you're going to be sick. Yes, this is logical, but this is not.
Yeah. How many sick days? 500 a year? You can't have 506 days in a year. Yes, you can. It's yeah.
Would your
Of course, I don't know how it is in the UK, and my UK viewers can maybe react to it, but over here in the Netherlands, it is 2 year max. So if you don't have, if you're still ill or sick after 2 years, then only then, with accompanied by a special re-education program, etc., you are guided to a different job or guided to into security insurance, etc. So you don't need to work at all. So, but after 2 years, never been to your work again. So 2 years max, and then still you're not fired, but you are assisted by your job, paid by your employer, to get you out and look for a different job or look for something that you can actually do within the company, but not fired. No. But a max of 2 years.
allowed to have
Nope.
in America. You're not allowed to have logic. Here,
You're not allowed to have logic, and you're not allowed to do some critical thinking.
you can just live. There, you have to live to work.
Mm-hmm.
It's also something Americans, they really don't want to admit. Is that a country that sells itself on independence and that it is the most wealthy country in the world and it is so free. Most of those people are afraid to take off a Tuesday because they're unwell or to give birth because they won't have time off. I don't think that's freedom. I don't think that's freedom at all. It's just a lie with a flag on it.
Mm.
When I left America a few years ago, well, I guess technically like a year and a half ago,
Okay,
I
year
worked
and
in
a half
film,
ago.
often 60 hours a week. Days on set are very long. There's no insurance unless you get into a union, and unions are very difficult to get in there. It's not like here. And then unions, especially in entertainment, fight you to make sure you have enough hours on the right types of projects to be able to get into them. You don't get sick days. Here, that's just not how it goes. And it's been really interesting to be on sets compared to America and see how like there were days, I'm not even joking, there have been days I've been on set where you would be there for 20 hours. It wouldn't be often, but when you have a location and everyone there and the whole crew, sometimes that's just what you have to do.
20 hours on a set in the United States? 20 hours?
Or sometimes projects will shoot, 12-hour days in like 3 days, just to get it done, you know. And that is not mentally what anyone is doing here on set. Here in the industry, you're allowed to take a holiday. You don't take your laptop. You don't check your email. Nobody's reaching out to you. So I tell my British viewers, take your holiday. Take it in March, take it in November, take it when it's raining, take it whenever you can because you can. And be grateful that you have this that so many other people do not have. Take your holiday and relax because that is what it is for. So where's the last place you went on holiday? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked this video, please like, subscribe, do that little hype thing, all that good stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And until
Like
then,
always, we gotta
I'll
like.
see you in the next one.
Yeah, good video. So she is some kind of actress or working in the film industry, also in in Great Britain. Good video, but yeah, she's telling the harsh truth about the work culture in the United States, and it's still amazing to me how people can still do this. Why there isn't a revolt in the United States about this. It's because everybody is afraid that if they revolt, if they go on strike, that's something that happens over in Europe several times a year, and in some countries, the working force goes on strike. And we say, whatever it is, in whatever branch, but they say, we won't work until we get better health insurance, or we get more paid, or we get more free days, or whatever the reason is. If it's not done by, then they strike. In the United States, you cannot. Because if you strike together with all your colleagues, the next day, you're out. You're gone. And instead of you, somebody else who won't strike does the same job. And there is no force in the workforce. It's everybody for himself. And that's what they like in the big companies. That's what they are aiming for. That's everybody for himself, because that's their strength. Because the strength would be if the working force would say, enough is enough, we are done. We're going down. We shutting everything down. For example, in Amazon, we do not drive, we do not sort the packages, we don't deliver the packages, we do nothing until we get better paid. The entire workforce, and that is a big company. It won't happen because everybody is afraid for losing their job, losing their health insurance. It's totally crazy. It's unbelievable that people still accept that. It's unbelievable. But the United States is only 250 years old. We are ahead of you several centuries. So they're still learning. They're still learning. They're young. They're still young. They hadn't had that much trouble. They had only had one civil war. We had several civil wars. Okay. If you like this kind of videos, then please subscribe to the channel. And if you want to see more of my videos, then this is a good starting point. And otherwise, hit this button. Thank you, and see you in the next video.